Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are pleased to welcome to the interview room our 2015 Masters Champion Jordan Spieth. Jordan, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
You have a very impressive Masters resume with 5 top 3 finishes in your first 9 appearances. There's only one player that has matched that record, and it's Arnold Palmer. What is it about playing at the Masters, at the Augusta National, that brings out the best in you?
Well, it was my favorite tournament growing up, so qualifying to get here was always a lifelong goal of mine. And I really fell in love with the game because of this tournament. Back to Tiger's chip in, to Phil's first win. You know, these were kind of heroic moments when I was at an age where I was playing some other sports and loving golf, and it kind of inspired me to really take up the game and, you know, see what kind of moments you can create, because the ball's always in your hands, and few things are as electric as those kind of moments that they had in sports, and I wanted to create my own. And so from the moment I got here, I was already very excited, and I wanted to learn it and fall in love with it, and just a lot of positivity. Didn't know what to expect, and got off to a really nice start my first year, and then tried to carry it on every year. So, yeah, I mean, 10th appearance now feels crazy, and you know, I hopefully can match, you know, some of those greats that have played in however many over the years. You know, I don't even know what the record is. Maybe Mr. Player would probably be up there, but you guys would probably know. But it'd be pretty special. But at the same time, when you get that many opportunities at a young age and you feel good about your chances here, you know, I want to win it again. So that's the goal, and was able to get a round in yesterday with my brother, which was really fun, and then get to work today.
With that, we'll open it up to questions.
Jordan, he just mentioned your record here. You also have a great record at the Open Championship. And I'm wondering, can you kind of explain the difference in instinct and intuition that you use here as opposed to there?
I don't think there's a lot. I wouldn't even say opposed. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. There, it's more the conditions outside that force you to play a certain way, in a feel kind of way, and have to work a lot of different shots. And here, the slopes that you're playing off of. You have 18 flat shots, and that's it here. And the rest of them are pretty significantly different. And those are just the 18 tee shots that you hit. So you're kind of forced to play flights and shots versus being just a technical, you know, straight line, straight ball flight. Those are really, you know, it's just the tee balls that are like that. The rest of your approach shots, which is really what this golf course is about, is greens and regulation and a second shot golf course along with speed control. I feel like that's a good strength of my game when I'm kind of forced into seeing a certain shot and I get to fight it off a hill or ride a hill, or and at the Open Championship, if you're, you know, holding it against a breeze or trying to play a shot really low, just kind of getting into that feel part of the athleticism of the game. I love, they're my 2 favorite tournaments. They always have been, and there's actually a lot of similarities forced by different things in the way that they play. Speed control you can't pick 2 different style of greens as far as the speed of them, but you have a lot of undulating putts where speed control becomes very important between an Open Championship and the Masters, and you just can't stress enough how nice it is if you can, you know, lag to inside 3 feet here, because your 5-6 footers are harder here than they are just about anywhere else with how much break you have to play on them.
Ann?
Hi, Jordan. How you doing? So what have you learned the most about yourself in all your experiences here, the ups, the downs, in handling all that?
I think I've learned that it's a game, and it's a game, and I've approached the highs and the lows as life or death at different scenarios, and it's just not the case. I'm 10 years in and have had a lot of different experiences here, and I can say that I look back, I learned a lot from winning, I learned a lot from losing. I feel better perspective now than ever, and hopefully that continues to grow. But ultimately, our sport doesn't get heightened more than it does this week. There's not as much. This is the highest viewed, golf tournament in the world, and I like to always call it our Super Bowl. But at the same time, that's still a game too. So just thinking of it that way kind of brings everything in a little bit, and allows you to kind of free up and look at each week as its own independent week. So I can't draw off of a shot I hit a certain time 5 years ago in this event because it's a different shot, and I'm a different player, and I feel good about the form I'm in. Hopefully we get a firmer, faster Augusta. I like it that way. I've played better when it is that way. It doesn't look like it's going to be that way, but if it forces a lot more kind of wedges into the par fives and some angles because of the cooler temperatures and the moisture on the ground, then I can certainly look at that as advantageous to me too. I'm just going to spin it positively however I can.
Alex?
Jordan, when you left here in 2015 with your green jacket, how many more do you think you'd have by the time you got to now?
I was only guaranteed that one. I didn't think ahead other than in 16 I wanted to win it then, and then in 17 I wanted to win it then, and I put myself in position a number of times. And so when I look back on the times where I've had real legitimate chances, I look at kind of the middle two rounds of 2018. I really could have, should have won it that year, but I was not playing great. I just had two really good rounds, and then so I just kind of I had chances in 14 and 16 down the stretch, and other than that, it's really just been 18, but I was 9 back. 21, I was pretty far back. So I really just want to I haven't had a lot of opportunities on the back 9 with how many I've backdoored some of those top finishes, and I'd love to get in the mix because I feel like right now I feel better about my game than I felt since probably 2017. So. That doesn't necessarily answer your question. I would have liked to have won it every year, but I also never assume that the bounces go your way a second time,
Jeff?
Jordan, you mentioned if it's playing a little bit longer and laying up potentially on those par fives, is that something you've assessed? Do you have different locations you lay up in for different pins on both of those holes, or with the new tee on 13, is that something maybe you're revisiting when you practice this week?
There's only a really minor adjustment on 13, and the rest of the holes I've got, and even then it's really just the one spot, the one pin you don't love laying up on is the front one, just because you're not able to push it up close to the green and have a real chance to get it close, because you're pitching off a downslope into almost no room, so you'd have 15 feet. So the front pin, if you have to lay up, you got to lay it further back in order to get it close so you can get spin on it. The rest of the pins, it's no different than if I drove it through in the pine straw and you're playing to lay up to a certain position. So it's going to be kind of weighing on, hey, if I'm more than 210 front, let's not even try. If I'm less than 210 front, let's see if it's a good number. I don't know if that's the number, but what I'm saying is it is a change, because if you hit a driver you were looking before, you were looking at a 6-iron, and that's a lot different than in between 4 and 3 into that green. So I disagree that it's less exciting. Like, I think you've heard mixed reviews. Some people say more, some people say less. I think if you're stuck in between and you get more mayhem because you're going to get more water balls instead of guys hitting 7-irons right into the middle of the green, how's that not more exciting? It's not very exciting if someone just hits 7 or 8-iron into the middle of the green in 2 putts, right? You want to see somebody hit one from further away and a harder shot. And I think I don't know if it's a better or worse hole. It's a different hole, and it's yet to be determined, I think, if it's going to be more or less exciting. if it were warmer, I think it's more exciting. When it's going to be this cool, it may just be a lot of layups, but we'll see.
Sam?
Jordan, my question is about the mystique and reverence for the green jacket itself. And it's my understanding you didn't want a tailor to touch yours, and I wonder if that's true and what went into that decision.
I think that was only true like the day or two after when we went on to New York. I just wanted to keep it in my possession because I had just gotten it a day or two before. But after that, I just had it with me everywhere, and I never got it fixed. Yeah, and then I think they've done it since here because the arms certainly fit a lot better. But I left a little room just in case I put on a few pounds over the years. But
Any memories associated with the actual jacket?
a lot. I was able to go to, Mavs games, Rangers games, go on the court, go on the field, go to the University of Texas in a football game, just some of that stuff where you wear the jacket and everybody knows what the jacket is, you carry a trophy around. If you're not a golf fan, you may get confused, but even the non-golf fans know what the jacket is. So it was very cool. It was, maybe the coolest part is just everywhere I went, I traveled with a little hanging bag, and on the bag that, that holds the jacket says, 2015 Masters Champion or whatever on it. And so it was just kind of cool to look in my closet every week and see that. And I'd love to have another one so I can keep one a little bigger and maybe fit one to my size.
Mary Kate?
Hey, Jordan. Can you describe your feelings and mindset on the first tee and how that can change from Thursday to potentially Sunday?
I don't feel that it changes a ton from Thursday to Sunday. It's one of the only places where it doesn't, for me, regardless of the position I'm in. It feels like it's a Sunday first tee shot in contention each day. It's just the first major of the year. You've kind of tried to tailor your game to get it really ready for this week, and you're anxious, and normally you're in a different routine because you're here earlier, or if you've ever seen this many people practicing this hard on a Monday, typically in a stretch, you take a Monday off or do really light work. So it's just, you're anxious to get going. It's not it's more anxious than nervous. I think there's a difference there. And, they give you a big enough fairway if you want to lay back, but it's also one of the harder holes on the golf course. So that's really, my mind goes to, I want to get off to a good start because this is a hard hole. I want to put 2 shots on this green and have a look. So I don't feel that changes a whole lot throughout Thursday to Sunday. It just always feels the same.
Doug?
Jordan, you've talked a lot recently about talking less when it comes to conversations with Michael. I'm just curious what prompted that and how it's going.
I just found most of what I was doing was justifying why something I did was good or why something I did wasn't or could have been better, and I'm essentially telling myself, so there's no reason to say it out loud. Michael's seen everything, and I don't need to, I shouldn't have his expectation be me at my very best at every facet of my game every single day, because it's not going to happen. And so I just kind of got into that, like I got to justify it or whatever to him, and I just didn't feel that was healthy, and I could save a lot of energy if I didn't. And I felt like I've been doing a pretty good job of it ever since I became really aware of trying. And, a couple rounds here and there where I've, fallen back a little, but for the most part, it's something I'll continue to work on.
Brendan?
We learned today that you and your foundation, Family Foundation, made a donation, a grant to the Children's Hospital of Georgia here in Augusta. What went behind that decision? Why was that an important place for you to contribute to?
Yeah, that's kind of the most recent pillar that we've added, and this is a special place for us. And then Annie and Laura Moses reached out and got to learn a lot about where it was going to go to, and I think it became a pretty easy grant for us to feel like was going to go to the right place in a community that we find very special to us. So kind of in line with what we do with the foundation.
2 more questions. Mr. Field.
Jordan, you mentioned being inspired by players creating moments here, and you've obviously done that yourself. Would you ascribe that to the design of the course or the occasion itself, or a combination?
Definitely a combination. I think the setup, you have a pretty good idea on Sunday where you can get some really exciting moments. I mean, 16 is going to be a really exciting spot. You know where it's going to be on 18. 17 changes a lot. 15 can change. But that 14th ends up being a really exciting pin. It's the easiest that hole can play. So the back 9 gets set up where, if you're in the wrong spots, you can go downhill. And if you're kind of in the right spots, you can really, what Schwartzel was four birdies in a row to finish. And there's been comebacks. I almost came back one year. I lost the lead one year. I've maintained one. It's just, it can yield just about anything. So I think the course setup has a lot to do with it. And then, as I mentioned, this being, essentially the Super Bowl to golfers, that then you get those moments towards the end combined with that course setup and creates that kind of, iconic finishes that are that stick with kids and drive you to want to go out on the putting green right when the Masters finish and go try and hit the same putt or the same chip or whatever. I've done both. I was that kid. I'd watch the end of it and then I'd run right out to the putting green or the chipping green and attempt those shots.
Last question. Jimmy?
Hi, Jordan. Apologies. I was a little late getting in here, so if you answered this at the very beginning and I missed it, again, apologies. But you had a lot of success, obviously, early in your life in golf and in your career, and then things became a little bit more difficult, kind of lost your way. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how hard you had to work and what that process was like.
Yeah, I tried working really, really hard without really knowing what I was doing, and I think that put me more in a hole. And then there was a time period where I, along with some help, talking to some guys that I trusted and knew, and using my same team, and just really kind of letting my guard down and being a little less stubborn and underworking until I got to that point where I was like, okay, let's kind of refigure this out. Like, stop trying the same thing and overworking it, thinking something's just going to click and it's all over. But instead, started to really re-engineer backwards what kind of made me so successful that I didn't realize that I kind of did without knowing. And then I had to kind of re-engineer it from impact backwards to get freed up again. And it's been a process since then. But for the last couple of years, it's been really exciting because when I go to the range, I'm confident that by the end of the day, I know what I can do to improve. And it seems very standard. It seems like that would be every day for a golfer. But there were years in a row where I would go to the course and I would be uncertain if I would come out that day feeling better or worse. And that's tough to go into. And so it's falling in love with the process starts with knowing what you need to work on, and then from there, putting in the hours. And I've got the scars to show the hours, but it's what I want to do too, because it's really, really enjoyable when you start to feel progression and confidence coming back. And to me, there's nothing like it. It's everything to start to be kind of re-fall in love with the game and to enjoy working it back. And I don't feel I have all the weapons right now, but I have enough, and I'm continuing to work on the ones I don't have, and I get a little better each day with them. And the ones I don't have may have let me down a couple weeks ago, and I go work on it. But the point is I feel the ability to have the consistency that I once had, and that's really what I was striving for.
Jordan, thank you, and good luck this week.
Thank you.